Theodore. He's a tugboat and a friendly tugboat too. A friendly tugboat too. Oh, Theodore likes to do the things that friendly tugboats do. Pushing and a pulling in the great big harbor, in the great big world is so much fun. So many brand new things to discover. Waking with the sun, gotta get the job done. Oh, Theodore and Emily, Bodak, Hank and George, and the harbor master too.
Theodore was on his way to move Barrington barge. Now, Theodore usually loved to pull barges. He got to work all by himself, without a ship or a pilot boat always telling him what to do. It was one of Theodore's favorite jobs in the big harbor. But today, Theodore was feeling tired. He'd been working very hard lately, moving Barrington back and forth across the harbor. "Hi, Theodore," said Barrington. Barrington was always very happy to see Theodore, because the only way he can move around the harbor is when a tug buttons on and pulls him around. "Oh, hi, Barrington," said Theodore. "Well, we may as well get started again."
Well, if that ain't the biggest mood to come from Theodore. Join the club again, Theodore. I'm tired too. I think we all are, for that matter. My question is, you've done this job how many times? And you're this tired? Either those pipes are really heavy, or you just picked a very boring job to have as a favorite. But nonetheless, Theodore buttons onto Barrington, and they begin their journey across the harbor. While doing so, Theodore begins to imagine what it would be like if he had a day off.
"That's what I'd like. I'd like a day off." Theodore felt the weight of the barge against his tow line. Was Barrington even heavier today? Theodore put more puff in his pull. "Theodore," it was Barrington, "can we go the long way around?" Barrington loved when Theodore took him the long way, around Willie's Island. "Sorry, Barrington," said Theodore, "but I'm really very tired today." "Oh, that's okay," replied Barrington, and settled down for the ride across the harbor. All Theodore could think about was what it would be like to have a day off. He could just float around all day, and there'd be lots of time to hear stories from everyone. Yes, a day off would be great.
Big mistake right there. If you're that tired, then you need rest. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And who would possibly be around to tell stories all day when everyone has their own work to do? You're in for a rude awakening, Theodore. So the next day at the morning work meeting, Theodore, still tired as can be, asked the dispatcher if he may have the day off.
Excuse me, sir," he began. "Yes, Theodore," said the dispatcher. You see, well, I'm very tired today, and I think I really need a day off." Wow, the dispatcher was very surprised to hear this. Theodore had never asked for a day off before. The dispatcher stared at Theodore for a moment and then looked away, thinking. Theodore wondered and wondered what the dispatcher would say next. "Very well, Theodore," the dispatcher said finally. "You do look a bit tired. You may have the day off, but I want you to make sure and rest." "Oh, thank you, sir," said Theodore very seriously. Theodore tried not to smile, but a little one peeped through anyway as he watched the others chug away for their first jobs of the day. A day off. Oh, what will I do first, he thought.
Well, you got your wish, Theodore, but it's not going to turn out how you want. Just saying. So as Theodore quietly floats around, he notices Barrington isn't being moved, but he doesn't have time to think about that. He continues on and arrives at the sandy beach, where he intends to stay all day long. That is until...
Theodore! It was Petra, the pilot boat. She was coming towards Theodore, looking very serious. "You're supposed to be resting today," said Petra. "Please return to your dock at once." "Yes, Petra," said Theodore, and he turned for home very surprised. He hadn't thought having a day off meant staying at his dock all day.
Well, of course you have to stay. Everyone knows you're tired. Not for nothing, but didn't the dispatcher say he wanted you to rest? He didn't say, "Sure, Theodore, you may spend the whole day at the beach." What kind of fantasy world do you live in? Well, the day wasn't exactly turning out what Theodore imagined, and instead of trying to rest, he now wants to hear a story. But from who? Not his friends, not the dispatcher, Donald Duck.
Do you know any great stories about the biggest ships that have passed by here? Uh-huh, replied Donald. Well, can you tell me? I've got all day, said Theodore. Uh-huh, replied Donald. Well, this wasn't turning out to be the kind of storytelling Theodore had been hoping for. Well, did it happen a long time ago? Or was it just the other day? Theodore asked. Uh-huh, said Donald again. Maybe this will take all day, thought Theodore, beginning to feel a little glum. Theodore Tugboat, please return to your place right away, the dispatcher called. Theodore was so startled by the dispatcher's voice that he revved his engine. And turn off your engine, the dispatcher continued. You're supposed to be resting. Yes, sir, Theodore answered.
Okay, first, why did you seriously think Donald was the perfect storyteller when all he says is, uh-huh? Second, why is the dispatcher just now calling out Theodore for not resting? Earlier, he and the other tugs saw him leave and didn't say a word. What the hell? But anyways, the day just kept getting worse for Theodore. He wasn't allowed to float around, no stories. He still needed to rest. And of course, he didn't. So he waited all day for his friends to return. And instead of how things would usually go, now they were the ones that were tired.
What did you do today, Hank? Emily? George? Fodak? He was very excited to see all his friends. They were sure to have great stories about their day.
It was a very, very busy day,
replied Fodak with a yawn. The best part was a huge ship that came all the way from China, said Hank. And since you weren't working today, I got to welcome her. You did? Said Theodore, a little disappointed that he hadn't got to welcome the ship. That's right, Emily said. We all worked together and did a great job. Well, what did you do? Were you the tug in charge? Where did you pull it? Oh, please tell me about it, Emily. Theodore wanted to know everything. He settled in for a good chat. I'm sorry, Theodore, said Emily. I'm so tired. Theodore wanted to shout. But I've been waiting to talk to you all day. But he didn't.
Well, you know, Theodore, if you were in that position, you'd want to go right to sleep too. Oh, wait, you were, but you completely blew it and did absolutely nothing.
Then he remembered Barrington. Did anyone move Barrington across the harbor today? He said.
I didn't,
said George.
Me either,
said Fodak and Hank. We couldn't move Barrington today, said Emily, because we were all very busy. Good night, Theodore. Very busy, said Theodore to himself. He kept thinking and thinking about how he had done nothing all day, and then he thought about Barrington. Theodore kept seeing his friend full of big, long tubes waiting for him to come and pull him around the harbor. Having a day off hadn't turned out to be as much fun as he thought it would. Everyone had ordered him around all day, telling him to stay in his dock and to float still. There wasn't even any evening storytelling, because all of his friends had been too tired after doing all of his work as well as their own.
Again, what did you seriously expect? Day offs don't exist so you can screw around all day, you know. You were told to rest, and you didn't. For the record, Theodore doesn't even look that tired anymore. So, technically, this day off was not only a waste of his time, but everyone else's? So, the following day, Theodore asked the dispatcher if he can go back to work. But is he well rested enough?
I would really like to move Barrington today. The dispatcher looked at Theodore sternly.
Do you feel rested enough to go back to work today, Theodore?
He asked. Yes, sir, replied Theodore. Once again, the dispatcher thought for what seemed like a very long time. And again, Theodore wondered and wondered what he would say.
Yes,
said the dispatcher finally.
Yes, you may go back to work today.
Yes, it seemed like the best word Theodore had ever heard. He set off toward Barrington, surprising himself with how fast he was floating. Barrington was waiting quietly at his dock when Theodore arrived. "Hello, Theodore," said Barrington. "Hello, Barrington," said Theodore. It seemed like he had never been happier to see Barrington. "Did you have fun on your day off?" asked Barrington. "No," Theodore admitted. I missed all the things I usually do, and I missed you."
I missed you too, said Barrington. I'm glad you're back.
"I am too," said Theodore. The two drifted along in silence a moment. "Barrington," said Theodore, "do you want to go the long way today?" Barrington smiled his biggest, bargiest smile and said, "Yes, please." That's what's so nice about barges, thought Theodore to himself. They never tell you what to do.
And that concludes Theodore's day off. Well, what do you know? Another boring episode. I think the story did have some potential, but nothing really happened. It was just Theodore being a little twit about what he could and couldn't do on his day off. Yes, day offs are nice, but they're also not to be taken advantage of either. When you're caught in this type of situation, your health comes first. We had quite a big cast of characters in this one, but obviously our main focus was centered around Theodore. And honestly, I don't really like him in this one. Truthfully, I don't think Theodore wanted a day off because he was tired. I think he just wanted to goof off all day. He barely got any rest, so as I said before, it was just a complete waste of time. Music once again was standard, as always, and it was sort of nice to see a small glimpse of the beach and Barrington's dock again, even though our main focus was the Great Ocean Dock, which again, nothing happened. Honestly, I can't say anything else about this other than it's another boring episode that really didn't need to exist. Next up is our final episode of Season 2, Phodak and the Rainbow.